This audio note is about question 4A, that is from May-June 2022 exam paper, variant 22. And let me read out the question. An economy moves from a deficit to a surplus on the current account of the balance of payment. Explain what is meant by a surplus on the current account of the balance of payment and consider the possible impact on the level of employment and prices when there is a change from a deficit to a surplus current account balance in an economy. So we need to answer the question, what is meant by a surplus? We also need to tell what will happen if deficit becomes a surplus. So a surplus on current account arises when the inflows for exports, incomes and transfers exceed the outflows for the same. A surplus on current account means that a country is exporting more than its imports, and that is a demand injection because exports are added into aggregate demand while imports are deducted, and a move from a deficit to a surplus means net exports rise. An increase in net exports means aggregate demand rises, and this causes a rightward shift in aggregate demand curve. And then you draw a diagram, x-axis real GDP, y-axis price level, downward sloping AD, upward rising AS, equilibrium price level, equilibrium income level. And AD shifts rightward, and then you need to tell the examiner that because of the increase in AD, real GDP rises. And since more output is being made, to help produce more output, more workers would be hired. And unemployment will decrease and employment will rise. However, increase in AD may also lead to higher price level, and that may lead to demand pull inflation. Whether a move from a deficit to a surplus will increase real GDP and employment, or will it increase price level, it depends upon the availability of excess capacity and the slope of aggregate supply curve. If excess capacity is available and aggregate supply curve is horizontal, the move from a deficit of current account to a surplus of current account is more likely to lead to higher real GDP and higher employment. However, if excess capacity is not available and AS is vertical, in that case increase in AD is more likely to cause increase in price level and is more likely to cause demand pull inflation. So I wanted you to be prepared of this, to prepare this question. Similarly, I'll expect students to prepare what will happen if a deficit budget becomes a surplus budget or a surplus budget becomes a deficit budget. So accordingly, prepare that question. While deficit budget, while a surplus trade balance, while a surplus on current account raises AD, a deficit on budget raises AD. So if a question is there which asks you that what will happen if deficit budget becomes surplus, so in that case AD will go towards left. And if the question says what will happen if a surplus of budget becomes deficit, then AD will shift to the right. Kindly note down these points and practice these questions. Thank you very much.